All right, everyone. Thank you for waiting. We are now good to go. It is a Tuesday, so you guys know what that means. It is the Rithmm Lab every Tuesday, 4 o'clock Eastern Time, presented by, of course, and powered by Rithmm. So if you haven't done it yet, that corner over there, top right corner of the page, free 7-day trial. If you haven't given Rithmm a shot yet, you got to test it out. The whole point of this live stream, of course, maybe you joined during the NFL season when James Santor and I did the Sunday Sweats. Maybe you joined during the college basketball season when I hosted the Tuesday CBB Rithmm Live Sweats. Now, of course, we're going to look at pretty much all the sports going on. So we're not tied into one or another. Really, the goal of this live stream every single week is to help you guys how to use Rithmm to your advantage because Rithmm, if you haven't downloaded yet, again, do it now. But it's just such a high-powered piece of software. It's very easy to download the app, get the app on your phone. You can also see that I like to use it on my desktop or tablet, laptop. It's also available there as well. But the whole point of Rithmm is that Rithmm does all the back-end hard work for us in terms of compiling a database full of all these different games across all the major sports, and then creating AI-backed models and advanced algorithms and formulas that spit us out recommendations. So Rithmm gives us all the information. Think of it as, if you, my wife loves watching like the cooking shows, all the contests. It's like, hey, Rithmm's going to give us all the ingredients. Then it's up to us to, bake the cake, figure out how we're going to put it all together. And most importantly, we have this great information. Let's learn how to decipher that information. Let's figure out, hey, what are the highest recommended plays? Of course, we're going to look at those plays based upon the green star recommendations. And then there's also what I would call quote unquote leans, where you might see, hey, we kind of like this spot, but it's a bit of a caution flag. In that situation, you're going to not automatically tell that play. But if you want to play it, you either lay off or play it because you've created, a criteria or specific reasons to play it that are outside of just a Rithmm lean. So Rithmm, of course, all the different sports available to us now. Today's Rithmm Lab is going to focus on the NBA playoffs. There are 3 games in the NBA playoffs here for tonight. I'm going to focus on one that I've already got a bet in pocket for, which is going to be Timberwolves and Lakers. So we'll talk through that. And then also talk a little bit of Major League Baseball. And I am not a huge, I'll admit to you guys, I'm not a huge player prop sports bettor. I really like playing the NFL player props in Rithmm. And I know a lot of people do a great job with the Rithmm NBA player props. But I'm going to look at Major League Baseball a little bit because MLB is brand new to the Rithmm app starting this year. So shout out to Megan and Brian and James Santor and Alec and everyone in the back end who did all this hard work over the last couple of years to get these recommendations available to us. But what we're going to try to do is look at a couple, in particular, K props. So looking at starting pitchers where maybe their over-under Ks are 3.5 tonight, and maybe Rithmm says they're due for 6 strikeouts or they're due for 2.1 strikeouts. So I think there's some money to be made there, and there are actually a couple of plays that I've made in Major League Baseball involving some starting pitchers with some good K props. So we'll start, of course, the NBA postseason, and we'll look towards some MLB player props right after that. So that being said, let's get right into some National Basketball Association postseason action. That was probably very, very wordy. I probably could have cut that down. But of course, we do have 3 games tonight, and I want to focus on the late night game, the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Los Angeles Lakers. So, of course, postseason action is upon us. These games are played a little bit differently. We have seen, I'll give you just some overarching trends that we've seen thus far. We have seen unders do very well in the NBA playoffs. If you include the play-in games, unders are now 10-6. They're I believe 8-2 now in their last 10. So we have seen a big under spot here so far. The other things that I'm looking at, in particular with sides, are line movement. When you get to the NBA postseason, one advantage that the odds makers have is that they have so much information on all these teams. So we've gone through a full 82 game regular season. Now we're starting to get a couple postseason games under our belt. Whole point being is that when you go into a year, and this is kind of produces a byproduct of your win total, but the odds makers are going to set the power ratings for all these teams based on all their advanced algorithms, models, and formulas. Then they might tweak the power ratings a little bit throughout the year, but by the time you get to the playoffs, and you see this really when it comes to NFL playoffs as well, is that these lines are really, really sharp. So they have all these box scores and insights and information. The other thing I like about NBA postseason is you don't have to worry about who's going to play and who's not. Guys who are load management or rested, throw that out the window. Everyone's playing in these postseason games. Storm and Norman, what up, buddy? One of my wise guy buddies on Twitter. Good to see you, buddy. But the thing that I like about this time of year when it comes to the NBA postseason is that line moves are very, very important, because when you're setting as an odds maker the opening numbers, yes, you're moving them based on, sharp action coming in, respected money coming in. But when a line moves, that typically is very meaningful because these opening numbers are really sharp to begin with. So, like, I'll give you an example from last night. The Clippers. I don't know if anyone played the Clippers, but you saw a really good line move toward the Clippers last night. They actually opened at most books as around a 2-point dog, 1.5-point dog. At one point, I think they flipped to a -1 favorite. I think they closed +1 or around a pick 'em. Whole point being is that the line moved toward LA. LA ends up winning and covering the game, winning outright 105-102. I'm kicking myself because I should have played the Clippers last night. I laid off. But when you see line movement in the NBA postseason on the side, those playoff line moves are now 8-5 against the spread, 62%, 18% ROI. There's also another system match that I love, which would be a playoff favorite off a loss. You're going to read a lot about, or here on Twitter, the zigzag situation or theory, which was really, really good in the past. It's kind of dissipated a little bit. You'll see this all the time when something is cashing quietly for a lot of sharps, then the public finds out about it. They kind of overvalue it. They jump on the bandwagon, and that's oftentimes when you see a lot of the odds makers kind of readjust or regress, or basically kind of over adjust to that trend. Like if they know favorites off a loss first quarter, typically the one system that has been so good forever is you're down 0-2, you're down 2-0 in the series, you come back home. Usually that team comes out just firing in the first quarter, so that's a wise guy spot. But I say that because there is still one system that's done pretty good. It's playoff favorites off a loss. So it starts with game 2 and can progress throughout the series, but it's the postseason. You're in a playoff series, you lose a game, you're favored in the next game. Typically, those teams do very well. So that system, all the way since 2020, is 73-52 against the spread, 58%, with about a 12% ROI. So you do have a match here tonight, which would be the Lakers. We have seen this line move toward the Lakers. They open as low as -5. Now you're up to 5.5 or 6. We do have a match tomorrow, which would be on the Rockets. If you look toward the Rockets tomorrow, they actually move 1.5 up to 2.5 or 3. Maybe you look toward a money line play there, but they would match. And then if you go a couple days from now, on the 24th, Knicks are at the Pistons. Knicks move from like a pick to -1. I don't like to get too far out because public hasn't really bet games that are a couple days away. I like to kind of wait typically until the day of the game. But as of now, that Knicks would be off a loss bounce back spot. So that is one system that has done pretty well. Let's look at the T-Wolves Lakers game though. I didn't play the side, but let's just see what Rithmm has for this game. I did play the total, which I'm going to tell you about in a second. But in terms of the side, again, we saw the Lakers go from -4.5 up to -5, now 5.5, even 6. They would be that playoff line move system and that playoff favorites off a loss. So if we go to our NBA tab and we scroll down and we go to, so we can pretty much click anywhere and click top 5 predictions. But we can X out of that. Let's go to all games. And I always mention this, but let's refresh the page just to make sure all the hard work that Rithmm is doing on the back end is updated to the current numbers. So once we get that updated, we'll see an update here, which is right there. So now we know we're up to date. So let's scroll down and go to the Lakers game. Now, this would be a bit of a layoff for me because I just started mentioning a second ago how the Lakers are matching some systems here. Favorite off a loss, line move system match. A lot of the betting here is mostly 50-50, but line move to the Lakers. I have a couple people that I really respect who laid the points of the Lakers here. But here's what gets a little difficult. Rithmm is kind of disagreeing a bit here. So their first model is saying take the T-Wolves. Basically, you have the T-Wolves predicted to lose by about 4. You're getting 5.5. It is a Green Star recommended play. I don't like to go against Green Star recommended plays. I do have a model on the Lakers. Basically like a 5-point spread, but that would be a caution flag. My pre-built model also says take the T-Wolves plus 5.5. You are basically right at 5. Now, I respect and I always want to follow the Green Star plays because those are your recommendations that are, officially a recommended play. They've gone through all the checks and balances with the Rithmm system matches and all the criteria needed to become an official recommendation. Whereas, these use caution ones are your caution flag, which is quote unquote, this is not a recommended bet. Please refer to the tag for more details. So you can kind of investigate that. So long story short, what I like to do when I'm using Rithmm is I want the betting market and Rithmm to be on the same side. So for this game tonight, the betting market is telling me the Lakers are sharp. Tickets are down the middle. Lions going to the Lakers. I got system matches on the Lakers. But Rithmm is saying take the T-Wolves. Now, the other thing I like is to have at least about a point discrepancy. Like if you do some math here, this is basically a 4-point difference, 104.5 to 108.4. You're getting 5.5. That would be actually a 1.5. Let me kind of go back. When it comes to the side, I really want like maybe 2 points or more. Like you would see a lot in college basketball. There'd be a dog that is, plus 14, and Rithmm says they should be plus 10. Like you'll see bigger discrepancies in college. Obviously, this is the postseason. Teams are good. You're not going to see that big of a gap. But for me, this would be a layoff. Market's telling me Lakers. Rithmm is telling me take the T-Wolves. But here's what I really like. Let's go to the total for this one, guys. The over-under. Boom! Look at this. Over, over, over. Green star, green star, green star. Mwah. This is what I love to see. I love it when Rithmm has all of my models. And remember, you can either download Rithmm and just say, Rithmm, give me your best AI-backed model, or you can, quote-unquote, bet on yourself. So you can create models based on, different criteria that you think is important. One of my models, one of my Josh models, I think looks more into like 3-point shooting and rebounding or other criteria. Maybe you say, hey, I want a team that shoots the 3 and, it doesn't give up many offensive rebounds. Like you can set your criteria based on what, as a fan or better, you think is important. Maybe you played basketball, maybe you didn't. Maybe you like a team that out rebounds their opponent. Again, you have the ability to kind of adjust those stat categories, and then it'll spit out to you what your model will be. Now, before we look into this over, I think it's important to start with the betting market. One of the reasons why I like this over, big reason here, of course, is we have all our models on the same side, and we're going to dive into them in 1 second. This over tonight, T-Wolves Lakers. And remember, I started by telling you it's been unders this postseason. 10-6 to the under, 8-2 to the under the last 10. But this line, if you guys have been kind of tracking this in the betting market, it has absolutely tanked toward the under. So this T-Wolves Lakers total, some shops open as high as like 217.5, 217, 215.5, 216. So you started at a pretty high number. You're now all the way down to 210.5. There's a 210 out there at FanDuel, and there's also a 209.5 at DraftKings. So one thing that I like is to buy low or sell high, however you want to look at it. As a data-driven contrarian bettor or any kind of sports bettor, especially the pros, you're looking for value. You're looking for an edge, an advantage over the sports books. To me, what makes me excited to play this total is just that it's fallen so much. It's an incredible buy low overplay. Again, if a total opens 217, 216, and now it's all the way down to 210, 209.5, on the one hand, I have to respect that the under money came in. But here's the thing. The under money, like if you're playing the under 210 now, 210.5, 209.5, yes, you're with the sharp line move that has fallen, but you're getting the worst of the number. And think of it this way. If this game, let's say this game lands 212. If it lands 212, all the sharps who bet it early to the under are going to win this bet. So if you got an under 217, 216, 215, 214, 213, 212.5, all those early birds getting the worm are going to cash that under. But if on the one hand, I did identify that the total's dropping, which is technically a sign of smart money. But if I am now playing the under 210.5, 209.5, 210, it lands 212, I lose. So that would basically be a winner for the early sharps who got the triggering number, a good number, a loser for me because I'm basically chasing that sharp line move. Now let's flip it the other way. if I'm playing this over, I am not playing this over because it's sharp. I want to ideally make every bet that I can that is both contrarian with sharp action. So I'm against the public with the wise guys. Technically, most likely going to be with the house in that spot. But this, even though this isn't a sharp play, so in my opinion, if you're going to be a sharp play, you have to have one of the major indicators: reverse line movement, steam move, 50-50 bet split, bet discrepancy play, so low bets, higher dollars. You don't really have that here. But what you do have is what I would call a buy low value play. And I think it's really important when you go into a bet to kind of know why you're betting on something. 9 times out of 10, my bet is going to be sharp contrarian play. But there's also opportunities in betting where just the value presents itself. So if I told you when this game started that you could get over 209.5 at DraftKings, yet it opened at 217, you're probably going to make that bet because that presents value. You're basically getting a depressed asset that has fallen so much to where it's become an overreaction. That's what excites me about this game, to buy low and play the over. Now, a couple other things before I pop open these Rithmm recommendations. One is that if you look at the schedule spot here, both these teams are pretty rested. If you look in the postseason, usually you play every other night. These teams played on Saturday. So they were off Sunday, off Monday. They're playing today. So you're basically getting an extra day of rest in this matchup. Why is that important? Because extra rest typically is benefit to the offense. Tired legs, you struggle on defense. But extra rest, especially for a guy like LeBron, incredible shape, but he's 40 years old. So an extra day for LeBron, an extra day for Luka, who's young but always seems to be banged up. And then you get extra rest on the Timberwolves side. The beauty of playing this over is I don't really care who wins. All I care is that we score enough points to go over this total. So you're rested. If you look at game one, it was a 117-95 win by the T-Wolves. They scored 212 points. But if you look at the box score, I noticed that they only scored 40 points in the fourth quarter. So really, Lakers couldn't get anything going offensively. They only shot 40% from the field. I'm looking toward regression positively in terms of the offensive end. Like if you give the Lakers and the T-Wolves like a regular quarter, they score 50. I mean, this total is well into the 220s. I also think it's an over adjustment from game one because game one was a closing total of 215.5. Now we're getting a total around 210. So that's a 5.5 point dip from the last game. So is that an overreaction toward the under? You also look at offensive efficiency. Both teams are top 12 offensive efficiency. Lakers are 12th. Minnesota is 10th. I'm also looking towards some regression. I mentioned all these unders have come through, 10-6 to the under, 8-2 last 10. Is this an overreaction where public is now hopping on the unders? Is this a good time for us to jump in, sell high, or buy low, however you want to look at it, and play that over? So all that being said, I like this over from a buy low standpoint. It opened close to 217. You're all the way down to 210, basically. Again, we can buy low and play that over. But what really sold me to play this over were these system matches or recommendations from Rithmm. So again, we don't have an over and under and over, or an over and two unders. We don't have a green star, a caution flag, and another caution flag. They're all on the over. They're all green star recommended plays. So let's hit the first one, my pre-built model. We have a green star recommended play. We analyze your model, see what it says, the line and historical data across the sports and bet types to identify your best chances of winning. Bets we recommend are marked with green stars. So official green star recommendation to play the over. Now let's look at this final prediction here, 108.4 to 104.5. That'll be a final total of 212.9. Again, if you can get that DraftKings over 209.5 and you got 212.9, we can round up to 213. That's a 3.5 point edge to the over. Let's look at our second model, my Josh model, 108.9 to 104.1. That's a 213. Again, cashing our over. Lastly, I got my pre-built model, 110.5 to 105.5. That is a 216. So if we just take the average of these three systems, again, 212.9, 213, and 216. That's an average of 213.9. So if I told you that this game opened at 217. You're all the way down to 209.5 at DraftKings, and Rithmm is telling you it should be closer to 214. That's a 4.5 point edge to the over. So that's how I like to use Rithmm. I start with the betting market. I try to identify something sharp or valuable, something that I'm interested in playing that fits my handicapping criteria, and then I pop open Rithmm, and I see if Rithmm either agrees with me or disagrees. If Rithmm disagrees, maybe I take a step back and say, what am I missing? What am I getting wrong? But I love it when I like something without even looking at Rithmm. Like you guys might do it differently. Maybe you go straight to Rithmm and say, give me the top recommendations. Totally cool. I like to use this as a cherry on top, my last line of defense or last line of, checking off the final box basically. So that's my play. I'm buying low on a total that's fallen a ton, and I'm getting behind 3 green star recommendations, all on the over. So I'm going to play, and I already have actually, the Lakers, Minnesota T-Wolves over 209.5. And again, shop for the best line. There's 210s out there. There's 210.5s out there, but DraftKings is still 209.5. That is my play for this game. Give me the over. Now, I wanted to hit on a little bit, or let's just say, okay, I haven't betted any other NBA games tonight. Let's just see if there's anything that catches our eye. I'll give it out. I'll shout out to you guys, Storm and Norman. Anyone else in the chat? Any games you like tonight, or any kind of side totals you like? Let's look toward the spread. We mentioned that you had 2 models on the T-Wolves, a couple models on the Grizzlies. Big spread here. Grizzlies 14.5. What's that? Basically a 11 or 12. Recommended. I have a conflicting play on the Thunder. I got Grizzlies. What is that? Around 14. Let's look at Bucks Pacers. You're going to get Damian Lillard back tonight. He had, I believe, blood clots. But this, okay, so this is a perfect example of a layoff for me. I got a green star on the Bucks, +4. I got a green star on the Pacers, -4. No play for me. Tells me you don't have consistent side there for both ends of the model. In terms of the total, this does interest me. Bucks Pacers, all unders, all under 228, all green star, 115.8 to 112.5. So I don't know if anyone likes the Pacers under, but that will be a recommended play. This would be a layoff because 2 unders and 1 over, but they're conflicting. So I don't really want to touch that Grizzlies Thunder. But again, my best play here, best bet, is that over 209.5 Timberwolves and Lakers. One thing also that I've noticed is basically fading in terms of player props, star players, their point total to the under, because you got to remember when you get to the postseason or just any NBA betting in general or any sport, major sports, you're going to get the public wanting to play the best players to their over points. It's like the easiest public play. However, oftentimes if you're playing these star players to go over their points, you're kind of betting into a bad number. You're kind of doing the work of the odds makers for them because they know you're going to play all these overs for star players. So therefore they can shade it or jack it up, make you kind of bet into a bad number. Now, with that being said, let's look at some recommended plays here tonight. Giannis, under 31.5 points. Now, he has gone over this, 2 of his last 3. You look at his last 10. He's gone over at a regular, decent clip here. However, this would fall into the category of fading a star player to go over. Under 31.5 in the betting market, Rhythm's predicting 24 from Giannis. And you're getting Lillard back, so maybe Lillard takes some of the shots away from Giannis. But that is one of your top recommended plays. We got more Giannis. We got some Ja Morant here. You can pick and choose, but again, Giannis is intriguing to me because that's a pretty good discrepancy. That's also a sharp under. That's a green star recommendation. Now I want to talk about some Major League Baseball because shout out to the crew at Rithmm. We now have MLB to get down on, which is great. And I wanted to hit on a couple, or at least one prop in particular that really jumped out to me. I played the San Francisco Giants tonight. The Giants had a pretty good line move. They opened like -120. They're up to like -140. I got a lot of system matches. If you haven't been paying attention, baseball, it's been a chalky start to the year. Favorites have done very well. Favorites are 62% with about a 4% ROI. I got a lot of matches on San Fran. Favorites with line movement, home favorites with a winning record, non-division home favorites off a win with steam, home fav off a loss or off a win versus opponent off a loss. But I really like that line move towards San Fran. If you look at Circa, the Giants are getting, I believe, only like half the tickets, but like 90% of the money. So I like the Giants. What jumped out to me, though, is Jordan Hicks is facing off against Jose Quintana, and Quintana's been really good. They bought low on him as a free agent. He's only made a couple starts, but I think he's like 2-0 with a 0.71 ERA. Jordan Hicks has struggled. His ERA is like 6. But yet San Fran has opened as a favorite and become more of a favorite. I kind of like that fishy angle when you have a guy with a worse ERA who opens as a favorite and becomes more of a favorite against a guy with a good ERA. Because on paper, you would say, give me Quintana and the Brewers. Yet the line's going to Hicks, who's actually got the worst numbers. But what jumped out to me was the Jordan Hicks strikeouts right here. So let's pull it open. Jordan Hicks, can he go over this number? So his over-under in the betting market is 4.5, and Rithmm is predicting 6.6. That is a 2K, discrepancy between his Vegas number and his predicted number. The other thing that I noticed is if you look at the kind of the matchup against the Brewers, I believe are basically they strike out the most on the road. I think they average like 8.5 strikeouts on the road per game. Discrepancy there with Jordan Hicks. Jordan Hicks caught my eye. Quintana, technically, same game, but over 3.5, he's projected 6.2. If you look at, who's the other guy? Zach Littell. Actually, I'm on the D-backs tonight. Had another sharp move with the Diamondbacks. The Tampa Bay Rays have only played 3 games on the road. They played all these games at Steinbrenner Field, and they've struggled on the road. D-backs have a system match that I love. Both teams had a day off the previous day. Take the favorite. It's like an 80% system this season. But Littell, can you get your 4Ks? Really predicting 6.6. So I fully admit I'm more of a full game bet kind of guy. But the beauty of Rithmm is that, you can pick and choose what you want to look at. If you're more of a prop person, that's great. If you're more of a conventional game better like me, hey, you got all the regular models as well. But also for hitting, there can be opportunities here like, Ryan Mountcastle, 0.81 hits. You can go under 1.5. The one thing I would worry is it's minus 230. It's kind of a expensive price to pay. You got some other guys with some good angles here. Any other that caught my eye? Like, can Schwarber get a hit? Can Schwarber get a single tonight? Plus 180. He's projected like 3/4 of a single. Again, I'm not a huge player prop person, but the whole point of me showing you this is that, this is available to you. And if you're asking me, I have had more success historically with K props versus, hitters. Because with hitters, you're only going to get 4 or 5 at bats. With pitchers, you go 5 or 6 innings, 3 outs an inning, you have many more opportunities to hopefully go over their K props. And if you're giving me over 3.5, he's projected 6.5, there's some pretty good value there to kind of buy low and play that over. So that's just kind of what I wanted to hit on. But what I'm really excited about, of course, is the NBA game tonight. Going with that over with the T-Wolves and the Lakers. And really, when you're using Rithmm, hopefully it's your advantage. The other thing I like is it's one of your top recommended plays overall, 215.9. Again, that was one of your top models there. So long story short, when I can basically combine the betting market with what Rithmm is telling me, that's my sweet spot. And again, the beauty of Rithmm is you may have a different approach, but we're all kind of going off of the same fantastic AI-backed sharp data that Rithmm provides to us. So that about does it for the lab today, guys. I'll throw it out to you if you have any questions, anything you want to talk about. I will mention real quick, I am an NFL draft bettor. So Rithmm doesn't have any, NFL draft props here. But one thing that I would recommend, the draft is just 2 days away. Screenshot the odds. Whatever book you use, FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, ESPN Bet, doesn't matter. screenshot the odds for all the major markets and just see how they move between now and Thursday and try to get down on situations where you're seeing movement. So I'll give you an example. A guy who is, let's say, an over-under draft position of 15.5. Right now it's minus 110 both sides. Between now and Thursday, do you see the 15.5 go from minus 110 both sides to now under minus 120, under minus 140, under minus 150? When you get closer to the draft, especially with these mock drafts, which can be very spot on because all these guys are tied into the league, people start talking, they start yapping. So some of this intel starts to leak out. Betting market starts to move based on that, and you'll see money come in and force the odds makers to adjust these numbers. So even though Rithmm isn't giving us these NFL draft prop bets, you can always check out my podcast, the All Systems Go Sports Betting Pod, powered by Rithmm, of course. I will be talking NFL draft prop betting between now and Thursday. Hopefully we can take advantage of some late sharp line moves where we can kind of identify smart money as it's starting to pour in. But that about wraps it up, guys. Reminder, top corner there, go download the Rithmm app. Make sure you give it a 5-star review in the App Store. Make my buddy James Santor happy. And also, here's a little tip or a little request. I'm your professor. I'm a cool professor. I'm a cool teacher. But you have homework tonight. I want you to find one person in your life to download Rithmm. Your dad, your uncle, your cousin, your colleague, your coworker. It doesn't matter who it is. Tell them to go to the App Store, and they're going to say Rithmm, R-Y-T-H-M, right? No, R-I-T-H-M-M. Type it in, download it, 7-day free trial, give it a shot. Even if they just want to look at some NBA playoff models, or maybe they're a baseball bettor. Pretty soon we'll have WNBA over the summer. But find one person in your life to download Rithmm. Help us to continue to grow Rithmm and reach more and more sports bettors. But I wish you the best luck, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to host the Tuesday Rithmm Labs. But we'll see you next week. We'll see you next Tuesday, and we'll once again be hitting NBA playoffs, Major League Baseball, and grinding throughout the summer months before we have to wait in that long lead up to when the NFL returns. But good luck, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Download Rithmm, tell a friend, and I will see you next week on Tuesday Rithmm Lab. Good luck, everybody, and hopefully you can cash some tickets tonight. Peace.